All right, I'll call the May 16th DRB meeting to order. First is agenda changes, and I hear we have some.
Yes, there are two. We put on the agenda an extension request for the Tucker sketch plan.
Okay.
It was kind of a contingency because they were putting their, well, actually their 6 months would have expired tomorrow. But they did on Friday get a full, complete application in, so an extension's not necessary, and they'll be on the June 6th agenda.
Okay.
And the other one, and I'll say, yes, the iPads are in the house, but but they're not. Alex is still working to put the programming on them, and we need to do some work as far as setting up the training. So we're looking at that also at the June 6th meeting.
Okay.
So those two are just off the agenda.
So that's going to June 6th.
Fun.
When is the training going to be?
The next DRB meeting, which will be June 6th.
Okay. All right. If the board members can review the minutes of May 2nd.
Yeah, I had a couple of comments. In the, on the first page, next to last paragraph, it talks about the property transfer in the June 14th, 2002 Select Board meeting minutes, which confirmed the, it wasn't the boundary adjustment, it was the transfer of the Old Place Road West to, and I forget the first name, is it Leon Place?
Mm-hmm.
To Leon Place. Leon Place. And I would just comment that on the last page, Dennis, you didn't leave the meeting, you just left the board. So
Right.
I would just change the word meeting to board.
Move to approve the minutes of May 2nd as amended.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, next up is Sophia Morton and Jesse Paul, sketch plan and plan unit development review. How you doing? Good. So you're up. You can just let us, tell us what you were trying to do here?
Sure. So first and foremost, we enjoy living in Hinesburg and love our community. So we are hoping to subdivide our current 11 acres into 2 lots. One would be about 5 acres and one would be about 6 acres, with the plan to possibly build a smaller home for ourselves on lot number 2. But because, as it describes in here, that does not meet some of the standard requirements of acreage size and some of the roadways, we are hoping to apply for a PUD to dedicate the 2.75 acres to green space.
Okay.
So I didn't fully understand the lot, land area, is the problem land area on one side of?
Of
the
one
right-of-way?
side of, right, on one side of a right-of-way. This portion here, and I'll show it on the screen here, this area here is just under the 3 acres. And then you have, it's a very interesting property with, you have a right-of-way here, you also have another right-of-way over here, and you can see how it splits the property on 3 sides. So what the applicant, and I have to stress, it's a rule that it's very unique to Hinesburg, and it's one of those that Alex has on his list to see if it can be removed.
Mitch,
Because there's no-
let me ask you this. Why should the fact that the regulation is unique to Hinesburg in any way enter into our consideration? Because I can imagine a lot of things we as Hinesburg townspeople would want to impose that might be different from other towns in Chittenden County. And second, to my mind, that's a non-starter. And second, the fact that there's a proposal to change it is fine. I have no disagreement with a change, but we, as a board, are charged with enforcing the regulations as they exist. And it may or may not be changed. If it's changed, the applicant could always come back in light of changed circumstances. I just don't see why either of those considerations has any bearing on our application tonight.
You can still ask for PUD.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
I'm just simply
Yeah,
saying
I-
that's kind of the genesis of it. And, so basically they're asking for a PUD for a waiver, and it's up to the board to decide whether, considering that this does need, as you're correct, this is a regulation that is currently on the books, and they'll need the PUD waiver in order to get an approval, and it's up to the board to decide whether
So how
what
many
the
acres
permit
are
is
on that
appropriate.
side of right of way?
It's about 2.9, 2.8, I believe, so it's just shy of 0.2 from
Yeah.
3
you're talking
acres.
to the north of the road.
Where our
or-
existing home is?
Where the existing
Yeah.
house is, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we fully respect and understand that there are regulations, which is why we went through with the PUD, because that was just what was recommended to us as a possibility.
So which gets me to the section 4.5, planned unit developments. We're talking about innovative and flexible design developments. And in the last 6 weeks, we've had a couple of applications that, to my mind, are almost skirting the zoning regulations, using the PUD to get around our zoning standards. And I'm a little concerned that we're kind of bending the language of the regulations in ways that could combat to cause concerns for us in the future going forward.
Can I ask, what was the, that 2.75, where did that number originate from in terms of the land that would be protected?
Actually,
The 25% of the total 11
Okay.
acres.
Yeah, this is all very new to us, so that was just what was recommended, and we're open to discussion. That was just what we were recommended to do
Mhm.
and happy to do.
And having the lots separate into 5 acres and 6 acres, in our zoning area, the town of Hinesburg has a minimum of 3.
actually,
And
that's,
so-
right, okay, go ahead.
So we were, and our association that we're a part of has a minimum of 5. And so by splitting it into 5 and 6, we're meeting both standards.
So I think that's the first time I've heard of an association that sets subdivision standards, because that's a town thing. Does that even have any legal standing?
Not so much for the town, but it is their own covenant, so they have to get the approval from their homeowner association as well as the board. But as far as the board's
their
concerned,
homeowners association is superseding town regs by
Well,
doing that.
They can't allow us to, they can't force us to allow a subdivision that goes below our regulations.
Understood.
They, by their mutual agreement, can certainly agree that they can require lot sizes that are bigger than our 3 acre, for example, requirements. That's just a private contract to restrict uses on their land going forward.
if they were to have something where they said 2 acres and then said, well, we want to do 2 acres, that would not be allowed by the town.
Yeah.
Whereas saying that they want to do something bigger,
Okay.
more restrictive, that's,
And it's kind of like saying, okay, I want to set my part of my land aside for private development or non-development. It's not required by the town, but it's a private covenant.
Okay.
But this 2.75 acres is core wildlife habitat? Did we have a map showing that?
It's actually not specifically core. It's near it. Here, this is what I think you want to see.
Yeah, the one does show cord wildlife, but it's not shaded.
Actually, it's not in
So
this
this one
one.
has,
This is the
so
primary
it's kind of like
one.
showing it down
Oh,
here.
it's near there, okay.
Hold on, it's over,
So that doesn't appear to be any steep slopes, agricultural soils, or core wildlife in that little block.
Now, the Quinn property is to the right,
right here.
To the left.
to the left. Okay.
What's the property to the west of lot 2?
Right here,
No, the one above it.
this?
Yeah.
Russell Fox's property.
If you want to see the primary ones,
So I'm not clear, the letter that's prepared, it briefly describes technically what you're trying to do. I guess in terms of the PUD, and there is a higher threshold that the town requires for a PUD, what's the general emphasis, or what's the reason for the subdivision?
Because we feel as though we will outgrow our current house that we live in now. It's a personal reason. I mean, we just feel like we're gonna outgrow the smaller house and we just wanna stay in our community. And we feel as though we have a piece of land that might allow for us, if the PUD went through, to build
So
another
you
small
build on
house for
lot 2?
ourselves. Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
I
That's
got you.
really the only reason we're trying to subdivide, is because we think financially for us it would help, and we wanna stay in this community. And we just thought it might be a possibility for us to do that and live here for long term.
And the access for lot 2 would be Turkey Lane, or I'm sorry, Red Pine Road.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Turkey Lane.
Yeah, how many houses are past,
Red Pine,
yeah, past the 2.75 acre lot?
just,
There's 2 houses.
Yeah.
You
Two?
can see
The one at the
one
end.
driveway. Oh,
I'm just gonna grab, I think I'm gonna grab another plan here that might show it. I think
yeah, there's the one at
this-
the end and the one that's adjacent to the 2.75.
So can somebody explain to me how this meets the requirements for a PUD in terms of the purpose of the planned unit development? In accordance with the Planning Act, planned unit developments are permitted in designated zoning districts to allow for innovative and flexible design and development to promote the most appropriate use of land and help implement the policies of the town plan in accordance with the design standards outlined elsewhere in the zoning regulations and subdivision regulations. In return for greater flexibility and density bonuses, PUD projects are expected to design a master plan for the entire property and set aside substantial green space or suitable community facilities.
Let me answer that.
The biggest reason was having the 20%, 25%, the 2.75 acres adjoining the Quinn's property, which the majority of that is labeled as wildlife habitat. And therefore, extending those 2 boundaries together to expand that area of non-buildable land.
So part of the expectation of a PUD would be that lot 1 would be able to use this green space. And I mean, looking at the layout, it's, they would pretty much trudge across your property to, the lot 2, to get to the green space. Are there, when we've had other PUDs, there would have been questions about, are there gonna be paths or some sort of community facility for the 2 lots to be able to utilize that space? Do you guys have any thoughts?
Yeah, there's the, Red Pine is a right-of-way for anyone that is farther down the road. So they already have a right-of-way access through our property going up Red Pine, as well as everyone above us on Partridge Hill has a right-of-way through our property.
Okay.
There's also walking trails all along this back, like the back piece of the 2.75, which we would be happy to continue or create into that green space to give better access from the Red Pine Road into the green space that's dedicated. I just know that those walking trails are accessed by lots of town community members on the end of Red Pine Road. And we'd be happy to continue those or create more.
I think that's where I would be excited to see as a PUD, that there be a benefit to the wider town, that if there could be some formalization of something, I don't know if that's appropriate, but I think that would be what I would be excited to see to allow the PUD to go forward, is that there would be some offering of some conversation with the town rec committee to see about the option to make public trails available
I
and
mean,
signage.
No,
we're
actually,
very
probably
open to
Trails
that.
Committee. There's a Trails Committee.
Yeah, the Trails Committee.
I mean, we're first-time home buyers. This is all very new to us. We're trying to understand it to the best of our ability, from our research and from our meetings with Mitch and Alex. And of course, you know, again, we're new at this, we're learning, but we want to be as respectful and conscious of the property and of what we're doing with it. So we're very open and flexible with, you know, the reason not only does the PUD possibly allow for us to waive some of these regulations, but we were actually excited about the fact that a portion of this property wouldn't ever have a building or something on it. So we're very open to the green space being used in other ways.
The CVU track team uses it quite a bit already. I see them running by every day.
What's south of the 2.7 acre parcel?
Looks like
It's
the upper
lot.
left corner
Yeah,
of
the
a lot.
Yeah.
The house that's on the east side of the end of Red Pine, that lot continues over Red Pine
Oh,
and
so,
borders the south border of our lot.
And is that the last lot on Red Pine?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where's that? Okay, so it's a pretty big, wide lot.
So this, so you have 11 acres. Your association requires 5-acre minimum lot size, right? So this 2.75 acres is gonna be part of that, making up that 6 acres of lot 2?
Yes.
Correct.
I was wondering about that. So when we do PUDs, is the common usually a separate? I guess it's not necessarily,
doesn't have to
right?
be necessarily.
Okay.
I guess I've just been reflecting on Greg's sentiment at first, is that as we've been looking through a number of PUDs, there's an increasing pressure to remain ever flexible with their definition, and I'm struggling with the letter of the law as it is written here, and really what I see would change my mind at this point is they say substantial green space or community facilities, and so I think if there's an effort to better articulate the community facilities.
Well, it's 2.75 acres is not a huge green space as green spaces go, I guess. I'm not sure what goes on there. Do things go on there now?
I don't spend much time over in that
It's
little
yeah, it's
spot.
mostly wooded.
Besides the walking trails and the people I see coming down Red Pine and hopping on some trail back here.
So what trails are
Not
there
sure.
back there? Where do
I don't know if it's an official town trail, but I know that.
don't think so.
No, it's not an official town trail, but there's cut-throughs through all those properties.
In the Quinn's property, yeah.
Mitch, can I ask, I don't think it's pertinent, even in light of my initial comment, but
And a valid comment.
If our regulation were not what it was, I wouldn't have any problem with this. But our regulation is what it is, and I think we as a board have to follow it. So, just out of curiosity, Alex is proposing an elimination of this. Does that relate to this particular application, or is it something that has been identified as a outlier regulation for some time? Any idea what's going
The
on there?
latter of those
And-
two.
Sorry?
It has been considered an outlier. And I'm
Before
basically
this
speaking
application?
Alex's words here, but Alex has basically explained to me that this is kind of a regulation that may have had some type of thought or value like decades ago, but has kind of lingered, and he basically would say that there isn't really a current use or a benefit to that regulation, and something that is on his list as far as removing.
Okay, so.
But either which way, they still need to, it's still, as you stated, it's still there.
Yeah, I know it's there.
And-
If Alex is proposing that it be removed, how quickly could that be acted upon? You, Mitch, and Mr. Dennis? I mean, is this a serious proposal for revision in the near future? Because if it is, I'm troubled with this under our regulations. But if in 3 months or 6 months the regulations can change,
That's the whole thing. It's hard to predict, and there is a process through it.
okay, so, but there's a process in place. Can anybody give me an insight as to when this might be processed?
I know it's something that Alex has been working on with a whole bunch of updates and modifications to the zoning regulations that the Planning Commission would be working on.
Well, Dennis, do you entertain these like on a kind of like a yearly basis?
No, we've actually been doing it every meeting lately.
No,
Then
but,
it's gotta go through the select board.
but we don't, but we don't process zoning changes every year, for sure.
No.
When was
There's
the
a
la-
list currently, Craig, that the planning commission is going through. I haven't seen this item on it.
Okay, well, philosophically, I'm not opposed to the subdivision. I just don't see it fit the regulations. And I'm concerned about us really dumbing down the PUD regulation going forward just to make this project fit, especially in light of what happened 6 weeks ago with the thing on Richmond Road. I think that was marginal too. I think we have to, think seriously about what the regulations mean and decide whether they mean what they mean or something else.
And just to be clear, the regulation that you're discussing, that with the very large out there possibility that it might be changed, is the 3-acre regulation?
Having 3 acres, the requirement that that a property or a new property have the minimum lot size, which in that particular area is 3 acre in the rural residential zone district, not on municipal water and sewer, is 3 acres. And the requirement to have 3 acres on at least one side of a public right-of-way,
Okay, I just wanted to.
or, I'm sorry, of a right-of-way. It doesn't, or
No, private or public, right?
public or private right-of-way, or certain waterways.
Gotcha.
The contiguous fiber.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So
Just making
that,
sure it was clear.
yeah.
Thank you.
So if you made lot 1 6 acres, that wouldn't take care of it.
That's
Doesn't have
correct.
3 acres on one side of Partridge Hill.
It still
It's
wouldn't?
the north piece
Doesn't
that's,
have, it doesn't have,
it's
it
the
doesn't have
problem.
3 acres.
No.
Their house is on this piece right here, which is 2.8 acres.
That is correct. It's the .2 that's messing with us.
Yeah, I guess when I first read that whole thing just kind of sounded funny. I mean, it's like, you get to pay tax on the whole lot, so why do the right-of-ways count against you when it comes to acreage?
Well, it's okay as it sits right here. It's an 11-acre parcel that, I don't know, maybe pre-existed that rule?
Well, but the-
When was
No,
that created?
the right-of-ways get subtracted from our land, so it would be, if we counted all of Partridge Hill coming up that road, it would be 3 acres, or very close to 3 acres. But because you take out the road, Partridge Hill, it makes the lot that our house is on, boundaried by that road and the stream, less than 3.
So is there also a takeout for the stream buffer or just the right-of-way?
In this situation, just the right-of-way.
Okay.
Because actually, I believe that, that right-of-way was part of that 2.9 acres. I'm not sure about that, but I believe it would be part of it and considered part of that in that 3. And, because if not, then the stream that happens to be on the other side is a divider as well. It's one of the ones that would list. Not this one over here, but the one that's on the boundary.
Patrick Brook.
So some discussion just
It's
confused me a
actually
little bit.
not, it's not well, anyway, it's a different name that would be under, but yes.
So when was this created? When was this lot created? This 11-acre lot?
I believe it was in the early 70s. I don't have the exact date on it. By Phil Hammerslaw.
Oh. Maybe
And he was,
past, yeah.
he subdivided all those properties. And the intent of all those properties in our association were at one point all 10 acres or more, with the intent of, that's why they set this, I believe historically, that's why they put the minimum of 5 acres, so that all of these lots at one time could be split into 2. And there's 2 lots in our association that have already subdivided back in the 80s.
So the lot in its current form, that piece above Partridge Hill Road still does not meet that minimum area requirement.
Correct.
So it's, the lot itself is non-complying.
I think you have more than 3 acres in this area here.
So it has to be 3 acres on one side or the other.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So in its current state, it complies.
Yep.
Only because the big piece on the bottom. And so trying
Well,
to
if
move.
it was created before the zoning regulations went into effect, it would be a non-conforming lot anyway.
Offer some information.
But it is actually technically a conforming lot because of this area over here, which would be greater than 3 acres.
Peter has.
I'll open it up to the public. Just state your name, please.
Peter Rosenblum.
How you doing?
Good. I live to the east of the property there. That open field is part of my property.
Okay.
It was my understanding, I was actually the first person to buy a lot in that, I believe it's 63-acre subdivision, and or maybe 70-acre subdivision. And it was our intention that each of the lots that were created would have to, not that they would have to be 5 acres per se, but there could not be more than one subdivision per 10-acre parcel. So that if one were 4.5 and the other were 5.5, that isn't a problem with the association. Also, under my understanding was that the rights of
Are
way
those reduced to deed language, or is that just kind of?
in our covenants, I believe it's in there, our protective covenants. Also, the rights of way, rights of way cross all of our lands, pretty much. But it was the intent, again, it was a private road, and the intent was that that the rights of way, even though they're available for everybody, were still part of each of our 10 acres. in other words, it wasn't 10 acres with the exception of the strips of right-of-way. There's like a 50-foot right-of-way, I believe, going up the hill and going down Red Pine Road.
So, do you believe your covenants or your deed cover the Newton property?
The-
The Newton?
No,
No, Morton.
Paul.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's
Yeah,
okay. Like the salt.
I'm sorry. I'm reading the decision.
I'm,
Yeah, the property we're talking about tonight. You believe the deeds or the covenants cover that property?
I believe that, that if you include the rights of way that traverse the property, that they would have 3 acres on that other side, on the north side of the road.
We as a board can't enforce private covenants unless they conflict with a decision of the board or a town regulation.
I believe, Peter, if I can just, I believe that the right-of-way, if you want to call it a right-of-way, is actually like an easement. It's a common association easement.
Right.
It's, the property is owned by the landowner. So in other words, there's an easement to pass over, but the land that the road sits on is individually, each member of the association, as the road passes over their land, they own the land.
He is correct. That was the intent.
Okay, but I thought you were suggesting there was a restriction in either deeds or covenants on the lot size that might be created on associated properties.
No, I don't
then I
really think so,
misheard
as
you,
long
sorry.
as there was no more than one subdivision per 10 acres.
All right.
So if the 6-acre lot were made smaller, move that boundary line between 1 and 2 further south, can you get, was it 3 acres? You would have to meet on lot 1, 3 acres below Partridge Hill? Yeah, Partridge Hill Road, in order to meet the standard as it stands without having to go to a PUD. You could, I mean, your potential home site would have to move further down. So I mean, in that case, would you have to take out the right-of-way for the, what do you keep wanting to say, Turkey, Red Pine? For the town's calculation, we would have to take out the right-of-way area for the Turkey Lane in that southern piece? Red Pine, Red
I
Pine.
live near there, Dick.
Partridges.
Did you hit a
and
golf
pines,
ball there the last week?
I got a turkey.
Do we have to take out if it's just an easement though?
The,
Read the definition of a 3-acre lot. I think it says exclusive, and that means something.
right,
I don't have that here.
I'm wondering, one, if you did have to take it out, could you move that boundary line far enough south to still manage to get 3 acres below Partridge Hill?
So even though you were building on the north side of Partridge Hill, you would have 3 acres on the
South side, to meet the requirement.
southwest of Red Pine Road that belong to that lot, and therefore that lot is conforming. Is that
Yes,
right?
yeah.
That's what we're talking about? Yeah.
And there wouldn't be building on lot 1 because the house is already on lot 1, right? So
Yep.
the building would be on lot 2, the new southern piece.
You'd have to be building down in the 2.75 acres, it looks like.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
well, I guess then the question then becomes on this one is, do they have, in this particular area here, on this side of Red Pine to the property line, is there 6 acres that happens to be there? And
Right.
if that's the case, then you could do something where you split this 3 acres, but then you're gonna end up with probably some really weird line that would then split this area up.
What, or why?
Why,
No,
yeah. I
Because
mean,
to
you don't
make
need
that-
6
to make-
acres. For the town, we need 3.
Well, they do, they need
For their-
3 plus 3 for the new lot, so you need 6 is the.
Well, I mean, the bottom lot
Right,
needs to
but
be
the
at least
thing-
3
Right.
for town, and potentially 5 for the covenant, or if you're okay with just having 2 lots, and that's
Well,
the,
like 3 on the north side of the road and 7 on the south side of the road.
Actually, would that meet your covenant? That's, I guess, the question.
That's really the question.
That's cool.
But Peter, the small triangle below your property, in between Red Pine
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Partridge Hill would stay with the house lot, which is the 2.75.
Yeah, and.
Because the
Yeah.
road itself becomes
Yeah.
the divide. Yeah, Red Pond becomes the divide.
Right, but I would
So it's
still
not
have a right of way across that.
Sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so I don't have a problem.
Wouldn't affect you at all.
So you're saying.
So I guess it sounds like we need to look at the
Basically,
common.
this
Very lost, so.
piece and this chunk.
No,
Correct.
more. You
No.
need 3 acres
No, it's-
contiguous, so keep going down, Rolf. You need 3 acres right there.
On one side of the
On one
road.
side of all the right-of-ways to call it a
This.
conforming lot.
Okay.
Yeah. Then you need another 3 acres for the new lot. So the question is there 6 acres in that, on the
On the
west
west,
side of Red Pine Road?
Just about 6.
Yeah, I would say it looks to me like it would be more than 6 on that. But I guess the question then is, do you need, so you don't need 5 acres as a minimum, you're just saying that you just need to, you're allowed to just subdivide it once with 10 acres, according to your
Right,
guidance.
but that would mean that each lot that was created would be a lot owned by the person who holds the title to it. And I don't believe it was the intent of the association to donate, if you will, public access to these rights of way. These rights of way, or easements, if you will, that we have here are for the enjoyment of Town Road 14 Association. So I hear talk about, which is something new to me, of creating a 2.75 acre parcel of land that is available to the public.
Actually would be part of, the original intent would be that. would be
I
part
don't
of-
see the spirit of our covenants don't allow for any property in this subdivision to be available to the public. The road association pays all the expenses for the road. We put in the power, we put in the roads, we put in the culverts, we all have our own septic systems. It was not in the spirit of the original subdivision or the covenants that we have created to allow public access to it that is official public access.
So-
If an individual, like, we don't mind having the kids run up and down the hill, that's not a problem for anybody on the hill, but it isn't a right. It's at our sufferance, if you will, that we allow that to happen. We would not be expected to have that, that's something that, in perpetuity, for argument's sake, the general public of the town of Hinesburg or of any place, except for the people who are the landowners, that isn't something that's possible.
So, Mr.
just to
Chairman,
clarify-
I'm hearing that there are interesting developments that were not available to the town planners relating to prior common ownership of these lands, private covenants or deed restrictions that may apply to the parcel that is proposed that need to be investigated.
I would
I
agree.
agree.
I think we ought to continue this to allow further discussion in light of the very enlightening conversation that we've had tonight.
I agree too.
Yep.
And I guess to further, I don't know if possible, to guide the applicant into that, hearing what we've just heard is that I think revisiting the particular subdivision criteria, and much like we were brainstorming, is to look at a possibility of those 6 acres would be your best course.
Right. Well, it just seems like from this conversation that that they could actually create a 3-acre lot and an 8-acre lot,
Right.
hypothetically.
Right.
If I understand what,
Yeah,
That's
I
what-
don't think that the association has a problem with that at all.
and if that's the
Okay.
We
case,
didn't
then you
understand
don't
that,
need,
but
then
now we
you
do.
don't need a PUD.
Yeah.
You
Right.
just basically create your 3+ acre lot. You just make sure that there's 3 acres in here, and there isn't any other concern on that.
But when we come back, we need some kind of sign off on any association rights to go forward. Because if there are, we're not bound by private deed or covenant restrictions, but if they're gonna get challenged and disrupt everything, it makes no sense going forward. So,
So
from
you
my
just need-
perspective,
I
we
don't- I
need
don't
some
know if I
kind
understand
of
that.
consensus.
We need
among how
something
this
from
might
the,
Signed letter from
the
our
association
association
saying that
saying-
this,
It
this
could be an
division
8
is
acre lot and a
acceptable.
3 acre lot.
That it's within the spirit of the
Is anybody talking
association.
to an attorney? I hate attorneys,
Like I said,
but
we're,
sometimes they're necessary.
yeah, we're new at this, so if we
And
need an
helpful.
attorney, then
If you
we'll
just-
Google one, I guess.
You-
There have been 2 subdivisions already, and I don't think they're 5 and 5. I think one of them is 3. And if you just were able to look a little bit further, it would be,
We
you would
didn't
see
know that,
that.
so
Yeah.
it's
So,
very educational.
Most of the lots were 10.1 acres.
So you should be careful, though, that
This-
you
this
really
is
have the
important.
required 6 acres on that side of Red Pine Road. And if it's close, you may want to do some surveying to make sure that
Yeah.
it was really there. So,
Why is, I'm just curious, why is the 6 acre important?
well, if they want to have 2 complying lots, they need, the new one has to be 3 acres. And they have to have 3 continuous acres on one side of any right-of-way to have the other lot be a valid lot. Okay, so that means you need 6 acres on that side of Red Pine Road to do that, because we know we don't have 3 acres on the
Right, you don't have it here, you
north
don't-
side of Partridge Hill.
But you might have 6 acres, if you could see the shape I'm kind of drawing
So if you
here.
have 6 acres you can divide 3 off and leave 8 with the original house and have a complying lot. Both,
3 acre
both,
lot.
both lots would be complying. The new 3 acre lot would be complying. The 8 acre lot would be complying because it has 3 contiguous acres on one side. Even though that's not where your house is, it meets the letter of the rule. The rule says you have to have 3 acres, at least to make a lot complying, you need 3 acres on one side of any right-of-ways that go through it. And right now they do. They have 2.8 acres on the north side of Partridge Hill, and they have 8.2 on the other side. So that's a complying lot. It's 11 acres, it's got 8 acres on one side, that's not split by a right-of-way. So even though the house is on the other 3 acres up there, 2.8 acres, it's still a complying lot.
Yeah, that- Just keep in mind that this area over here is also split by Red
Yeah.
Pine Road.
Right, so it's
So
kind of
really,
useless toward the
it's this area
calculations.
right here.
Yeah, it has
That's
to be
what-
6 acres. To split into 2. To split 3 acres off and have a complying lot where you're leaving the 8 acres.
And the right of way is not included in that acreage, correct?
That's a detail that I have to rely on
Okay,
Oh, sorry. We have to
the
calculate.
staff to
that.
help
Okay.
you out do it.
Alright.
I do have a public comment I'd like to pass out to.
Okay.
Pass this over.
So I just wanted to clarify for the comments, if this is not a PUD, then this is all not non-issue. But the common area of a PUD doesn't imply public access. So when they said when we say community service, it's the community of that little PUD. So it's, the common area is tended for the use of the properties in the PUD, not general
That's a
public.
different
It
story.
can be
I'm
both.
hearing
Yeah.
people talking about trails through these 2.75 acres that would be available to the public.
It's not automatic, so I guess, yes,
Okay.
it could, if the landowner decided that, yes, I want to allow the town to put a trail through that common land, they're perfectly able to do that, and then it becomes
Not-
public.
not
But it's
vis-a-vis
not,
our rules.
just because it's a PUD doesn't make it public
Okay.
space.
Yeah, my understanding coming into this was the PUD was not town-wide use, it was community,
Yes.
small community use.
So, yeah, so do take into account the reluctance to stretch PUD too far. And I guess goes for our staff too. Because we've been tussling with that on another PUD where we said, hey, that doesn't, how's that related? How's that go? And we sent them away to demonstrate to us that it really is a PUD, that there's real benefit. There's not just, it's not just, because we want to do it something that doesn't meet the zoning. Okay.
So in terms of scheduling, Mitch, I mean, a month out, 2 weeks out is probably too short. a month out is our site thing. Then we have the 4th of July and,
I know it's kind of an odd time of the year, although I'll tell you that there is 2 applications that we are considering on June 6th as well as the iPads. So, I mean, it is probably possibly something you can consider trying to put onto the June 6th, but
Do
The
you guys have a
applicants are-
strict
and if we have to
time?
push, that's the whole thing, if we have to push the, I mean, the only reason why we're thinking about the June 20th meeting for visits is this, it's the longest, one of the longest daylights of the year.
But if we have
Do I-
applications, we can always.
Do I
move that
understand
on.
you're new to the property?
No, we've lived there for
3.5 years.
3.5 years.
All right, okay.
So, yeah, we don't have a strict time constraint.
It doesn't
so-
sound like it's as time sensitive
Yeah.
as maybe some
Okay,
others.
so if it had to continue to a longer date, it's certainly possible.
Well, let's see.
And it gives you plenty of time to just
Do our research.
do the research, talk to
Which we did.
a surveyor if you need to.
Lawyer if you need to. Do you want to move it to July 18th? I don't know,
We're
that's
fine with that.
just it's
Or
the
find a
meeting.
date where I won't be here?
So
There
moved.
you go.
Are you going to be here on that day?
So moved.
As far as I know.
Or you got a date with a lawyer.
I move to continue the hearing to the July 18th.
Actually, just before you do that, just want to mention I passed out a letter of support from Brad Blanchard and Tim Bourne, and which the board has had a chance to take a look at and know that.
Was that in the
People just-
packet?
No, it just came out.
just-
They
You just
came
handed
in
it out.
after-
Handed out.
This was sent after the packet letter.
I just got the Lenore Bud letter.
That's the one.
Yes.
Oh.
It's to Lenore, Bud. That threw me too.
I second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Cool.
All right, see you in a couple
Thank you for
months.
your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We have to stay for the rest of the meeting.
No, you don't.
Okay.
Only if you're interested.
I mean, well,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Nice to see you.
All right, up next is Stephanie Spencer. Final plat review.
So Rolf, you're gonna step out on this one?
Yes.
We got,
actually, if you can get through, so just
we
get
got
me.
some-
Are you front and center? Are you gonna be front and center? Are you doing the application or?
No.
Are you front and
Do I
center?
have to sit up front?
Yeah, we gotta be able to hear you.
I've got a big voice.
And actually, before we start, there's been a bunch of extra additional information that's come in, and I'm just gonna pass these out.
A couple of those points where you notice no information?
Pardon?
A couple of those points where you notice information had not been
Yeah,
provided
actually, when I
per
first
order?
looked at the application, I thought something was there, and actually, things are, I think, gonna work out with this, but, yeah, there was some information that, upon closer review, was not what it should have been. And, new information has been put forward. I'll just mention very quickly, a letter from from their engineer regarding that a state compliant water and wastewater systems are being designed. A response from the applicant to the staff report, including a new stormwater plan, as well as a 4-page letter from a concerned neighbor. And that's what I've handed out. And I have extra copies if you haven't seen this, because this came, this came earlier, but the letter came today.
Okay,
Literally,
I haven't seen that, no.
well, we received it about 2 o'clock today.
Yes, he wanted to get it to as early as he could, and he worked on it I think he got the last information from you on Thursday, and we've had a lot of things going on in our lives that we just couldn't control time-wise, but we tried to we followed the rules as best as we could.
All right, well, the board has the letter and has the opportunity to review it.
And I have remarks that would take less than 5 minutes that just summarize the points in the letter, so at the appropriate time, I can share those verbal remarks.
I'll leave that to the, yes.
Yeah, you'll just tell me.
Okay. So a 21 acre parcel, and we're dividing it into, we're adding a house lot and a common, and a unapproved, and a part of the land not approved for development, right?
Yeah, it's in conservation easement.
Okay,
It's right now it is,
oh, it is,
yeah,
And we'll stay that way.
yeah.
so. We got plans to talk about?
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't.
So it looks like a bunch of things are also gonna, there's a bunch of boundary lines that are being dissolved, turning a bunch of individual lots into a much larger lot now.
Well, do you want me to answer that?
Or just give us the whole layout, 'cause it's been a
Okay.
long time since we've looked at it.
All right, it'd be good if there was a map, but it's,
Yeah, I'll make this a little smaller
or
on,
even if we can turn it.
I know, it's unfortunately, I
If
can't.
you right-click on the image, can you
Control-Shift-minus.
Yep.
Right?
rotate clockwise?
Oh, okay, let's try this.
And then you have to
Almost.
do it. You have to,
And I'm gonna do it again.
I didn't know I could do this. Thank you.
There you go.
There we
Oh,
go.
Now you
can I just get up and-
Now you can make it bigger.
Would it be helpful if I just kind of point out?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Too big, let's see.
No,
There we go.
no, we just, all we want is the lots.
Okay.
All the
Well,
lots and
this-
everything, make it bigger.
All right,
There, now
Not
we're
big.
talking.
okay.
All right,
And you just
This
told me
is
something.
a piece which we call the Hummel piece. It's a 20, what was it, 20 acres? I don't know. Originally a 20-acre parcel that we added on years ago. When we, and this is our land over here. So I don't know, about 3 or 4 plus years ago, we have a total of 60 acres that we've sold or given to Fish and Wildlife with a conservation easement. So at that point, this was kind of a separate lot, so we have a conservation easement on this piece, and we have a conservation easement on this piece. Once this piece is subdivided off, we wanted to eliminate this property line, because otherwise we end up having to do an easement to access the back parcel. So we just want to keep it all in one piece, eliminating this line and eliminating the need to have an easement to the back part of this piece. But this is all protected with Fish and Wildlife. 60-something acres, I think.
And that little alley running north-south, there's a little boundary line there that's also going away. So that,
This,
no,
No,
a little
over,
further,
right
yeah,
here,
right there.
right here.
So that would also connect that big piece that's gonna be joined together into a piece that wraps around the other two little properties.
Yes,
Yeah.
and this thing kind of shows that, if you can see, this being one big property.
so
and
this
like
is
a-
the, okay, yeah, this is the patents, and this is.
it's already
kind of-
connected to
Yeah, this is,
the larger piece, but
Well, it shows on this map that boundaries to be dissolved.
So it's just, yeah, it's,
yeah,
once
This
you
will-
dissolve the
this
big
will,
boundary
yes,
line,
yes,
then it
yes.
would be all one
Yes,
lot, but
yeah.
you can dissolve that boundary line as well, since it's
Yeah.
not actually a boundary line.
Right,
And then that one, the right property becomes a little island
right. And-
inside of the other property.
And then this is the piece, the access to that, it's, I think it's 50, 60 feet wide, that was part of the original, I don't know when that was determined. This was the access to the bigger piece.
Yep.
So,
And the two little other properties, their access point is to the south and out the side?
these two?
Yeah,
Yes, there's a driveway
okay.
that goes along.
And that's a right of way across your bigger,
Exactly,
okay.
yeah.
Actually, it goes, it's actually down here.
Yeah.
Right,
That's where the access is, it comes from there.
right, it's
and comes
south of all
here.
those.
Now, the
Does it
Erb
go-
family has a sewer easement.
Yes,
What's that, for replacement mound or something?
No, it's their septic.
it is their septic.
It is? The
Yes.
septic
Pumped,
down.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
pumped.
their leach field.
Okay,
Right here.
okay.
So we create a 60-acre parcel that has conservation easements on it. We're creating 2 other parcels?
No.
One other person.
One.
Well,
Three.
one in an existing house site, or just one total?
One total
Okay.
For a new house site.
for a new house.
There was an existing house there,
Well,
not anymore.
not a
Okay.
legit house.
So lot 1 is the new lot.
Yes.
Is that existing house the one that was referenced in the older letter? June.
I mean, it was like a house that was built by my uncle. I don't know if it's,
Is it mentioned in here?
It was mentioned in a letter that it just didn't make any sense because it's not mentioned anywhere else. It was mentioned in the engineering ventures letter.
There was a house and a foundation that was, whew,
On that
Yes.
21 acre parcel. yeah.
Exactly,
Okay, but it's
exactly.
not there anymore.
no,
No.
no, it was taken down.
And there was also something about there could be 2 units, and
It's-
those units want to be all moved into the smaller lot
It's just gonna be
one.
one,
It's one unit.
one unit.
There was something that
But
was
there's
mentioned in
two-
the sketch plan for some reason.
Yeah.
Because of the
This-
size of the lot, it was eligible for 2.
Exactly,
But, so you wanted to put both units and put them on, I know there'll only be 1 unit.
right. This was brought up at the first meeting, and I think, and it was mentioned when I talked to Alec, he said, you could have 2, and I said, we just want 1. And that's all we want, is just one house, one house.
So I think the idea is that you would still have another unit available on that lot. You're perfectly welcome to build one house, one unit.
Right.
But you would, by rights, by the rules, if somebody wanted to put a duplex on there, you could put a duplex on there.
Yeah.
Because you have the right to those 2 development credits, or whatever you want to call it. So I think part of what we try to do in this case is we want to get that down on paper so we can keep track of those development credits. Because, otherwise then one just sort of disappears.
Yeah.
So I assume that we would want, kind of officially to say that, yeah, that lot would potentially maintain those 2 development credits. And then it gives a future landowner more opportunity, I guess, if they wanted to take advantage of that.
We don't want any more houses. We just want one.
This is my
That's-
daughter,
that's
Lily
too
Stolbert,
crowded.
and her husband Andy, so they're the ones who are building.
Where was that wastewater design letter that was referenced?
It was actually in the paper that,
Okay, that's the first, the contours.
Well, it said it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
I'm a little disappointed it's not more finalized.
I mean, this is final, right? So,
Yeah, it should have been done.
Well, yeah, that was, my impression it was to be done.
I think, isn't it depending on the state? The state has to approve the plan?
yes, the state, yes.
And once that's completed, I mean, that is a process that they have to go through.
There is a state approval for a water and wastewater system. It is a state approval.
Well, it should have been done before this meeting. We could issue a decision that would say nothing could be recorded until all this is done, but it should have been done before.
Yeah.
Well, should we go right down through the staff review and check one off one by one?
I think maybe to throw one out there, Dennis, is that there was a concern raised by an abutter, and I think just put this on the agenda, is that the access to the driveway was raised as a safety issue that should be investigated, and I guess I feel unprepared if that's truly the case. I don't know how, I mean, there are regulations for that and where driveways should be placed, and
Well-
given.
Well, he must have gotten a curb cut from the town.
We
He
did.
has got it.
Yeah, we
He has
do.
got
We
it.
have
So
a
that's
meeting.
been approved?
He
Yes.
takes
It's been
care of that
approved.
safety.
Yes.
Right.
And there's
And
two
I
other
agree.
driveways right in the same location
Yeah.
as where
Yeah.
our driveway would be, so.
We leave that to professionals.
Yep, good, all right, well, that's what I just glad
Yeah.
that somebody
All right,
else was
so
looking at
we'll-
that.
So the utility easement is not on the survey. Are the utilities going up the access strip?
Yeah, in the
Yes.
same.
So you
the
won't
lo-
need an
where the
easement for
driveway is.
that?
No.
Nope.
All right. The wastewater, we've already talked about that. The stormwater, we just got something on that too, didn't we?
So we had the
I think a
picture,
revised,
but then there was also a more engineered plan or something was supposedly in the works. Is that what this Vermont Contours was stating?
The question was about the
There were a few.
larger storms that overtops the berm.
I mean, so something like this too, if there's a engineered stormwater plan that's going to be put into place, then we really need to see that before we approve. I mean, it's one thing for us to say that you need to get state approval for your wastewater, because we don't control that, but if there's an engineered plan or something, then we should see that before we vote for approval or whatever.
well,
That's what's right here.
Talking about wastewater or stormwater?
Stormwater.
So stormwater, does this fall under the state rules or just the local
This
town
is,
rules?
this is the town rules.
Town rules, yeah, so we don't rely on.
We
the-
don't get a state,
We don't rely on the state, we rely on the engineer. to
which we
engineer.
have right here.
Yes. Well, and I see these plans are conceptual in nature, a pre-construction conference with contractor and design. So, I mean, that doesn't sound like a engineering plan.
well, this was designed, I mean, I think his feeling is that once we start doing the driveway, that he will come in and have a better idea. I mean, he's the one that helped, I think, all of you come up with your stormwater regulations, and,
It's the same gentleman who helped the town of Hinesburg develop the rules.
But I guess the question is, what are we approving?
you mean overall,
Well, with
Or
respect
with-
to that particular plan.
as far as stormwater you're talking about?
I mean, is this something that's finalized before the process actually starts in all cases, or does the process start and then it?
This is a final approval, and we're at the
Yeah.
stage.
But don't you have contingency? Okay, we give you, you don't get your building permit, as you say, until you get the stormwater approved by the state or the stormwater design. I mean, are we we're at the forefront here of doing this stormwater stuff, correct?
Are we the first site that's done?
I'm not, blessedly, I disclaim being a lawyer, and I certainly am not an engineer. I defer to those people here who are.
I mean, I think
I wish I knew
he
stormwater.
did submit,
He submitted, he
description.
did submit some plans, and then he did update those plans. In the town regulations, it talks about, and I could pull this out, but basically, I could read your whole part of it. But basically, it says you have to design it to the storms unless there's a waiver, but you have to be able to explain on the larger storms what's actually going to happen. And as of right now, the way that this is designed is that it's just going to overtop the berm, and that's usually not the way in which a larger storm is actually channeled or placed.
Are you talking about where the culvert goes through?
The little collection pond, yeah.
Cross driveway culvert?
No, I'm talking about for
The only berm I see is on the cross.
That little, yeah, that little circular
Right.
pond is what you're talking about.
But there isn't really a guide as far as,
And Mitchell, maybe another point I just have a question, is it acceptable to drain onto an adjacent parcel where that outlet?
Shouldn't be unless it's not increasing the flow.
and for the 10-year storm, or at least the way the engineer has explained it to me, it's not going to increase the storm, it's not going to increase the peak discharge for a 10-year storm, according to the engineer, although I have to say I haven't seen the actual calculations, which I've requested. And they are probably going to exceed the peak discharge will probably, it hasn't been designed to mitigate the 100-year storm. So in the 100-year storm, it will be a larger discharge. However, our regulations don't state, well, I should say our regulations allow for a waiver of that if it can be waived in the state regs, which the 100-year storm, as far as retention, can be. But we also have a part of our regulations that state that the engineer has to explain what's going to happen in a larger storm event, and that no major erosion, no major problems are actually going to happen. And that hasn't been received.
It seems obvious to me this application is still incomplete, and we're gonna have to continue it. Rather than spending a lot of time talking about stuff in detail that's incomplete, maybe we can kind of tick them off, and engineers will know what has to be done.
Yeah. The other thing, just simply a major point that needs to be made, is that part of, as you're pretty much picking up, part of the stormwater system is going to end up being on the adjacent property to the south. And there really needs to be some type of easement set up so that it can be maintained.
Because as it stands now in this plan, they're basically taking all that existing sheet flow and concentrating it into that one discharge point on the other side of the proposed driveway.
Well, I think that's just for the, so there's a ditch that runs on the north side of the lane, right? And
No.
it's collecting, okay, because there's red arrows that kind of point to the pipe that's going under the road.
Yeah, there's a drainage ditch on the
So
south side.
to me, I thought that meant the water was flowing toward that pipe on the north side of the road.
No, there's no existing ditch there.
Okay. And
There's an
I'm,
existing ditch there?
No, there's not.
Yeah, so they're capturing all this
Yeah.
and the sheet flow off the road, and they're discharging all that right there. Normally, right now, it's just coming across this.
okay.
And only this is a conceptual plan, but being out there, I have a gut feeling this is going to move a little bit more in this direction. So it really does need a good, whereas in getting the application, I was going piece, yes, they have this, and it's not until you actually do a full review that you can really, that I really picked up on some of these holes that were in the application.
So this must be getting pretty close to the 10,000 square foot.
Oh, it's beyond the 10,000 square foot. It has to, which needs the,
That's why we have the plan.
Needs an engineering plan.
it's close, but just
Oh.
doesn't have these things.
Okay, I guess I've seen other engineering plans and it's not just boxes. I don't know.
They're trying to do what's called an offset, which is, instead of concentrating a roof drain, I should say, discharge of stormwater off of a roof to a guttered place that would then discharge, you allow it to just sheet flow off of a grassed area, and it is an acceptable way of treating stormwater. A comment that I would add to it is some of this isn't exactly as it should be as well, but.
So
I'll
if
send
that
it
is
to-
true, then what is the problem with allowing it to sheet through the field?
Because you have a concentrated flow here. The flow
Because
is
of the
going-
culvert?
And the ditch.
And plus.
Well,
and-
what ditch?
and And not only that, it's, if you look at the entire thing, you are increasing the overall flow
Sure,
discharge.
sure.
And the idea is that the peak discharge in a mitigated, in a proposed, after the proposed development, the peak discharge will be less than the peak post-development discharge will be less than the pre-development discharge. And that's what the regulations require. And,
And we're gonna be hearing from engineers going forward on this. So, may I inquire the applicant when they might think they could come back before us with what we need?
Well, I think ASAP.
Um,
No, I mean, I really do. I think that this, you mean as far as the septic, I think he's been,
Yeah, you've got some work to do.
this and the septic,
Yeah.
correct?
Oh, that's not insignificant work, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 weeks is wildly optimistic. 4 weeks, I think we're probably not even meeting.
Well, then I say we'll get it done in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
I find that hard to believe.
Well, you know, I mean, I think, Mitch, when I gave you all this information, or it was given to you 2 weeks. A month ago, I called you and I said, do you have everything you need? This was Thursday before the Friday deadline.
Stevie.
No, excuse me.
Excuse me.
Can I-
Our
no,
order said some things that have been absent from this application.
Excuse
when
me? No, excuse me, could I finish?
Go ahead.
That was a month ago, and it really is in the last couple days that we have gotten, oh gee, you don't have everything you need. And I think that put us behind the 8 ball. And I'm not,
it's been more than, it was about a week and a half that I first got back to you. But, yeah, I mean, I have other things I'm doing too.
April 20th. We turned the
Yeah.
application.
So-
Do you think you could have it in 2 weeks?
yes,
Do we have room?
We have, I believe you can do it.
we'll
Okay,
get,
there are shortcomings in this application. We're disappointed, quite honestly.
okay, well, what else then? Tell me, Craig.
I think it's been identified. It's just
The
a lot
two-
to do in 2 weeks.
The two
So,
things. What else do we need to do?
I haven't identified any other shortcomings.
Well-
I'm just saying, I hope we're not wasting time by trying to get together in 2 weeks, maybe bumping other people off the calendar when you have a lot of engineering work to do.
Tell me what else we need.
These are the professionals. I can't tell you any better than them.
Well,
I'll
the
tell you
board.
what, I will get you a list within the next 2 days, I will get you a list.
Okay.
of
We
what
know
I
the
see.
septic and we know this is not.
Those are the main things.
Those
and
are
everything
big
else-
ticket items.
Okay, I know that, but if there's anything else, please let me know.
I'll write you an updated
Okay.
report on
All
that,
right.
sure, happy to do that.
Is there anything else that?
And obviously,
Well-
board members are considered about what's going to happen to neighboring properties. And that's part of.
Neighboring properties is
that's
us.
part of engineering.
It's us,
And plus you might have some public comments as well, so.
Okay.
yeah.
Is that culvert location discharging on your property?
Yes.
To the south, yeah.
Our property?
Okay. all right.
Yes.
If it stays.
So they could always do an easement for that.
Regardless of where the culvert is, it's on their property.
But
'Cause
what if
it's
the property gets
flows
sold
south.
later on?
If it what?
You own, let's say you
Yeah.
own the property that you're talking about building, but what happens when the property to the south is then sold?
But they could always do an easement for that.
Do an easement.
That's just another contingency.
Right.
Yeah.
That's legal. So, another tick.
How big is the lot
To the south?
The field?
That's,
how big is your lot?
That's the big
Well,
thing that
that's
wraps.
That's actually the big lot.
Oh,
And it's, I mean, it's the whole thing that wraps around.
I see.
It's all part of the common,
Okay.
no.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, but that area to the next lot is large, more than large enough to handle whatever sheet flow, I guess, is coming
Right.
off of there.
Yeah, it just needs to be set up.
Right.
So, I mentioned, we may have co-opted a neighbor. Is there Ms. Edelman here?
Yes, speaking, yeah.
Does she want to talk tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
And maybe before you even talk, went through sketch plan, Did you
Yes,
appear
they-
at sketch plan?
They did.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, we've been trying to stay on top of it. So my husband submitted the letter today with the information that he received on Thursday. And he's got that 4-page letter, but I can just run down quickly some of the concerns that we had. So for one.
Can I just interject and say?
Absolutely.
Your neighbors are incredible stewards of the land, and if you're worrying about one house being built there and maybe affecting your water supply, if they sold the property to somebody for maximum development, there could be a heck of a lot more development. So, your neighbors, I would love to live next to your neighbors if I were you, because they seem incredibly attentive to keeping the land open as much as possible. So.
Yeah, I think though that, and I may not have the latest plans, but I think that putting in a 500-foot or whatever it is paved driveway.
Not do a paved driveway.
Yeah, I don't
Would
know where
never
you're
pave.
getting this information.
Okay, I don't know, I thought we got it from
No,
No, it's not a paved
We don't
driveway.
do paved driveway.
so there's no paved driveway.
So
No.
maybe to the extent that you
No
guys can
pavement.
communicate in the near future
Yeah.
to eliminate
We'd be happy
differences
to-
of
we'd be
opinion.
happy to-
And there's
impervious,
no,
right,
and
it'll
there's
be
no
gravel.
like,
Yeah.
parking area for 8 to 12 cars in a garage of 2,500 square feet, I don't know.
No, we're not even, actually, we can't even afford a garage right now. And no, not,
Okay, so I
That
have,
didn't come from our office,
Yeah, I don't know.
that information.
okay, I have to find
I mean,
out where
yeah.
that came from, I'll have to, check with,
Well, yeah, I mean, it does, well, it's not there, but it does show the 25.
Where's
That's
your
the
hou-
house.
Where's your house on your property?
our house or their house?
Your house.
Oh.
our house is, the driveway that they're building would parallel our driveway. And our driveway wraps around towards the left, and we sit in the center of the 6.2 acres. Their driveway, so our house is, up
On
in
the
the
top of that
center.
hill.
Yeah, I'm trying to,
This
this one. There we go.
I haven't been looking at the details here as closely.
So the road, where's their driveway?
Our driveway is,
Right where my hand is, right here.
And it goes up to where?
it goes up.
Curls up,
It
you can
curls
see
up
it curl around on this side.
How long is your driveway?
It's 1/8 of a mile long. So, yeah, I thought that you were looking at a paved driveway.
Actually, it's
And
like
I thought
this.
you were looking at a house and a garage that was gonna be about 2,500 square feet.
The
with-
house
house
will
will-
be about less than
I mean, that's-
2,500 square feet. And
I
the
mean, they could
garage, I
build
mean,
whatever
that's to
size
be
house they
determined,
want.
but
Yeah.
not a large garage at all.
But, yeah,
All right,
and
so-
actually, and I was concerned, I don't know, I knew that I didn't know about the aquifer. It wasn't so much the sewage as, there was something about the aquifer. I mean, let me just say that the first and biggest concern I have is that we have a property line that's just marked by some ties on trees and branches that are subject to vagaries of the weather. And if we had a property line that was more
This
defined.
is Vermont.
No,
Yeah,
I
mean,
do realize that, but
but we
there,
can work with you on
yeah,
that.
I mean, that would
Yeah,
feel.
we would, I mean, I would personally like to know that you know,
I mean, we're not gonna
where
have
that
like a
line is.
fence, but, I
Well,
mean, no,
Well,
like.
no,
no,
there
no,
are
but-
ways of,
but we can-
unobtrusive
yeah.
ways of marking out.
Of
I
I
mean,
course.
know there
yeah.
is like a metal, there are metal,
We'll-
posts
we'll-
in the ground.
we can make that more defined.
That
I
would
mean,
be great.
This is going to be surveyed if it hasn't already,
So
right?
It has,
It
been-
has
it has been
surveyed.
surveyed, yeah.
The way property lines are defined is by corners, not by a line on the ground usually.
But it's something that both sides would be able to find, or would know.
The point, the pins.
Yeah,
Yes.
there, and there are
Yes.
pins there.
At
There are
the
pins
corner.
there.
But
Okay.
I would be happy to walk those with you, and if you want, you know, like a.
Maybe we can have
one-time-
this conversation outside here.
Yeah,
offline?
yeah, yeah.
We do have other business.
Okay, so.
But Ms. Edelman, I
I-
think if you really talk to these people who are wonderful stewards of the land and are not real estate developers, you may get a better feel about this project, because imagine what could happen
We
if
should-
they were real estate developers.
But we should hear her out for her concerns. I think that she
Valid
wants them for the record, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that we can go by I don't want to take up the time to read the summary. I'm just trying to see if there's anything of real importance. I do actually feel, because of the way the road dips, And I thought that when I read what I had about the number of cars that might be coming out of that new driveway, that it could be a potential problem for just seeing the traffic, because I know that it's
course, yeah.
pretty,
With the hill there.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly,
yeah.
so.
That's, I mean, it would be.
Yeah, it would just be us
It would
two.
just be us two.
Okay, and I actually, from what I was reading, I thought that maybe you were actually starting a business there, but we'll take.
Nope,
Okay,
nope,
So-
just a,
no business, no 8 to 12 car parking
Nope.
area.
Nope.
And,
we
okay,
actually are
If they
starting
wanted to
to.
start a business there, they'd have to go through a different permitting process, which you could then be a part of.
Yep.
So I think maybe some of the confusion is just that engineering drawing we were looking at before showed a 3,400 square foot house, 2,500 square foot parking area
Thank
attached
you.
to the driveway, and a
Yeah.
1,700 square foot future cars.
That's what I was
can't read that.
referencing. So that's
I
not.
think that,
So-
isn't that include, like, that's the drainage area that goes with,
Well, there's another green box that's 2,500 square feet that shows it's
like,
equivalent to.
where it's draining too?
So that implies a very large parking area.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think I didn't think my husband was making this up. So thank you for finding that.
Yeah.
So isn't that in the sketch plan that you're referencing?
so
Or
there's
is that just?
So actually what I'm referencing is
These
the
areas here?
picture that the engineer.
they're doing this for a worst-case stormwater flow
Yeah, it says
calculation.
impervious
Oh,
area.
okay.
It
So,
doesn't mean it's actually, yeah.
right,
Okay, so it's something that's fictitious in a worst-case scenario?
right.
I think so, yes.
Just to prepare for
It's-
the potential drainage that could be created by the area.
I think so. It's just, it's a
Okay.
little confusing because it looks like that's what is being intended. But I think it's from his plan's perspective, if it got that big, we'd have the area to offset it for the flow. So that may be just some source of the confusion.
Okay. Thanks for your time.
So, well, you'll have the opportunity to consolidate your thoughts, because this is going to get continued.
Yeah, thank you. So when will this be continued so I can be prepared? I'll just wait to hear about that. Thank you.
I think,
I'll just stay tuned for that. I'll leave after that's determined.
I think we're proposing 2 weeks from now, right?
Yeah.
And if they're not ready, we just continue it again, right? That's fine with me. I would so move.
We have a second?
Can I make a comment? Not about, but about the letter?
What letter?
Robin's
The letter we
letter.
just got from.
Yeah, I think it was in number, I think,
What page?
number
What
4.
It's on the back of
Number 4?
Vermont Contours thing.
No, the
Number
4.
4?
I mean, I think that is, it's a real sort of slap in the face, and I think sort of unnecessary.
Yeah, it wasn't intended that way. It's
Okay.
just, it was not intended as a slap in the face. It was intended as a statement of fact that ex parte communication is difficult to monitor. And when people are trying to be treated fairly and treat others fairly, I mean, recusing yourself like he did tonight,
Yes,
totally
yeah.
appropriate.
Right.
But, and I'm grateful and impressed that, you know, you're getting this now, and that, I mean, I don't know how things work, but I
We
do
don't-
know that in a town this size, ex parte communication.
This happens a lot with applicants who have interests on the board, and the board members are scrupulous about recusing themselves. I've never had an ex parte communication in my 20 close years.
We do not talk about applications outside of the meeting. We make it a
Okay,
point,
thank
we
you.
make it a point
It
not
doesn't
to.
happen.
Okay, well, thank you, and
There's
I'm
no-
This
very
isn't
happy to hear it.
over the back fence kind of stuff.
You know, and then, one other point that I want to make is that we could have just said, they can have all 21 acres. We don't have to go through all this. But our desire to keep all that preserved land in one homeowner's is really important to us. So we're going through this to allow that. And not that I expect any, we don't expect any, you know, special treatment, but it's really important to us to keep this land preserved. And if we didn't go through this process, then it could just get split. And So,
And, you know, and truthfully too, Stevie, you even mentioned to me that if you were building, if the situations were reversed and we were putting in a piece of property and building, that would lower the value of our property because of increased noise and you know, and it's not, don't take this personally. I've heard nothing but friends in common that you are these lovely, nice people. And, you know, that is something that I don't want you to feel personally involved at all. But it is just, it's a devaluation of property, it's noise, it's light, it's traffic, some traffic concerns, and I just want to make, and the aquifer, the effect of wastewater, I want to make sure that rules are followed. Rules exist for a reason, and some of your comments to me have been pretty huffy in return, like, you know, so.
Mr. Chairman,
We'll take this offline.
Close this.
I think so.
Public
I'll be back
discussion.
yeah,
We
I'll
already
be
had a
back.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we'll just hear from you, Rich.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
So I didn't have
Well,
anything.
do we want to go and do news and announcements? Because I can't be here for,
Well, there was nothing in the packet for David and Kathleen Newton.
No, they
No, but,
emailed to us.
Tell me when
I
this
did
is.
2 weeks.
email.
2 weeks?
2 weeks unless you're told otherwise.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Yep.
2 weeks from tonight, like June 6th or something?
The decisions, as extensive as they were not ready for the packets, but I did
Right.
email them.
No, I got it today.
Okay.
I'm prepared to act on it.
And I also have printed copies on this.
And it was
Right.
great, by the way.
I need a printed
Thank
copy
you.
then, because I did not check my email.
So let's pass that and.
There's
you
one,
take
there's
it?
two, there's,
I didn't even have a,
And actually, I need one back for, oh, no, actually, were you here for, but,
it was more anal. about
what,
that years ago.
what,
Oh.
but, actually, Dennis, you said something,
I got your email.
well, I can't be
yeah.
involved in this, so I didn't know if there's news and announcements.
I'll just simply say that there are two applications for the June 6th one. I mentioned Tucker before, two-lot subdivision. And the other one is Norris is coming back for a
Just glad not to call them out.
reapproval of their work in the stream channel, which has expired. And they're also going to be asking for a change in one of the conditions as well. So we've got those two, plus we have Spencer Kilman continued.
They're not gonna get ready in 2 weeks.
All right, well, I'm gonna go sit out in the audience.
There's an extra one for that.
Get
Because
by?
you weren't here last week, right? I mean, last meeting.
No, I was away, yeah.
So we're gonna take one of these up at one at a time?
Mitch, these are great.
Well, thank you.
On that,
which one do you want to do first?
variance is on top.
Variance first?
Mitch, in the future, I think I would record the vote on the variance criteria one by one.
Yeah.
In the
Oh, you mean
findings.
to actually have it where,
You bring up each one and say,
I know you mentioned that there was a majority on each, but
No, he said it
just
was-
as
he
a
said
matter
it
of
was-
style, I think I would, because there was a separate vote on each criterion, I would record the vote going forward.
it was 6-0 on all of them. I
Although
believe.
we do a variance bet every 5 years now.
right, well, I was just, in putting this together, I was thinking that, because you actually had a vote at the hearing, but usually with the decisions, you end up having a vote on the decision. I mean, we could add it either which
No,
way.
that's true. That's
Well,
true.
then, was that part of the deliberative, we weren't in deliberative session.
No, we voted
So
on
was
the-
that,
That
was
was
that in the
open.
minutes,
That's in the minutes.
the vote on each one?
No.
Actually,
It
what
just-
was
said
said
that-
in the minutes was
Because
that
in the
the vote
past,
was taken.
it was reflected either in the minutes or the decision as to the vote on each criterion.
It just said, I read through each criteria and each one was voted 6-0,
6-0,
yeah.
yeah.
But it didn't spell out or list out the different criteria.
Which I could go back and remember.
I don't think it's necessary since I don't think there were any dissents on any of them actually.
No, it was the
but-
same votes and the same people.
But going forward, I think it would be a better practice to just record the vote on each.
All right, so 10
In
years.
some way.
So 10 years from now, when we have our next.
I mean, I think
Well,
it would
I'm
make
hoping
sense.
It'll be 10 years instead of 5.
I would think if you're gonna do that,
We
then the
used to do
findings
them
of
about
fact.
3 a week.
I heard, yeah.
I mean, it seems like the findings of fact would be a good place to put it,
I
not
agree
just
with
in
you.
minutes.
We can add, sure, we could, on the findings of fact, we could just add something that says at the.
It's not
At the
necessary.
meeting.
It's not necessary. It's fine.
No,
Just going forward, I'm just suggesting.
Yeah.
So is there a finding of fact anywhere that says anything about the vote that was taken?
probably shows.
Because I don't see that the board voted on all 6.
Well, I think Mitch's point is, we're voting on this tonight, which includes the 6 variance criteria. But I think it would be good to have in the finding of fact that we went through each of those during the meeting and.
You know what, it can't hurt. I mean,
Or the
why don't
affirmative,
we-
sure, why
Why don't we
not?
put something in here that basically says,
Yeah.
at the, what would that be, May
Well, it
6th?
was, yeah, number
May
10, you
2nd.
talk about the
Wasn't
following
it-
members of DRB were present for the variance review.
Or
on
actually,
May
so
2nd.
just-
You put it right there with number 10, yeah.
Following members were present in the variance review.
On page 2, number 10.
So
Yeah,
you could just make it a 10A or something, and
or just add an extra sentence in there that basically says, all 5 variance criteria were,
Approved unanimously.
there you go.
how about all 5 variance criteria were individually?
There you go.
Approved.
Well, all 5 implies individually, but I don't want to get too technical about that.
Well, we might have been lazy and just lumped them all together.
You know, the 5
That's
variance criteria
Were
were
approved.
individually
Were
approved.
each
Were approved
approved
unanimously.
unanimously.
Were each approved.
Wordsmithing
unanimously.
is my specialty.
Good skill.
Same.
Oh, okay. So
I
actually,
had
under
no-
variance, you do list variance criteria, okay.
You did a great job of explaining why.
Are we still doing variance?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I moved to approve as amended.
Second.
So 2 was the one that you had the concerns with,
Yeah.
right? And,
And Mitch did a good job of that.
okay.
Second.
We got a second?
Oh,
Right?
So we had a motion, we had a second. All those in favor?
aye.
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 One quick,
Then we got-
since Dennis
As-
can't sign these, Dick, would you be signing it?
I could be signing it, yeah.
So Don, I abstained. I did not.
Sarah's local. She's not. Who's
Yeah,
our?
she's not-
Who's our secretary?
That's enough.
Sarah,
Oh,
Sarah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So sometimes I've come in when Sarah's not available, but. So
But since
sometimes
she's not here, she wasn't
Lenore emails me and then I don't respond because I don't look at my Yahoo. So then she calls home.
Well,
But if-
after the meeting, we'll just figure out a time when you can come by and sign it.
Okay. All right, whoops, got more.
We moving on to the site plan?
Conditional use and site plan.
I did have some clarifications, I think, that for, I think, just clarity would be important. Page 2, number 8. And I think this kind of trickles through in a number of different places here, is that I think we need more specificity about the removing, the last sentence there in number 8 on page 2. The applicants have agreed to remove the remaining portion of the driveway west of the principal structure and place grass in that area, which will reduce the lot coverage on the property. I think we need a little bit more clarity or to me, there was a lot of discussion about how much area might be removed. And I think anybody
Well,
trying to.
I think it's next to the building, isn't it? The new part, the addition, really?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess is that
I mean, it was that whole parking area, beside the building, because once they
Right.
put the new addition in,
So grass will go up to the new structure,
grass will go up to the building on that whole side,
something
I
to that
thought.
effect.
Right. Oh, the whole side of the, so the addition doesn't go the whole length of the building, does it?
Actually, no,
It does
it
not,
doesn't.
I don't think.
No.
Or does the grass go up to the building on
I-
each end of that?
My impression was that it would, because that there wouldn't be there wasn't enough space there to park a vehicle anyway.
And this is, again, just
Yeah,
to
I'm wrong.
add to the conversation, is that number 9, it says the applicants propose to remove the existing pavement and replace the pavement with grass. So I think we're still talking about the area, but I didn't think it was paved, right?
Yeah, I don't think
Is
Right.
it impervious, it's just
Manufactured.
gravel?
You know something, maybe that's replace, actually, no, that's a good point. I'm not sure if it is, I put pavement there, it probably should be. Why don't we say impervious surface
Yeah.
in that place? I think that would be better.
I think we need to say something that the, that grass will be placed in a position to fill in all the impervious surface west of the new structure. Something to that effect.
Right.
And then again, I think this is in conclusions number 3, is again, it talks about removing the pavement to the west of the principal structure.
Right, the
and
word
with
pavement
grass.
is wrong in this one here. It should
Impervious
be the
surface is good.
Impervious surface.
So how is 8 and 9 really different? I mean, 9, I guess, is talking about dollar
The
amounts,
dollar.
but
Yeah, eight is talking about lot coverage, and 9 is talking about landscaping cost. You know, you're required.
okay, but in both cases, we're talking about the same, we're referring to the same impervious
Yeah,
surface that's
but-
being
but-
turned back into
But
grass.
for two different reasons, right?
Okay.
And by the way, I think, looking at this with that comment, on number 8, I would change the word driveway to impervious surface.
Well,
this
it's
way
still-
here
no,
will cover
driveway's-
everything on
Driveway's
that.
fine, because it is a driveway, right?
Well, it's more of a
Well,
parking area.
Yeah, I think the impervious is clear, just because we did have those back and forth, particularly of the southern driveway and all that kind of stuff. So I think if we say impervious surface
Okay.
west of the
Yep.
building.
Yep, good idea.
Then just a point of just clarification, probably for my benefit more than anything else, is that order number 5, the expansion of use on the property shall require additional review and approval by the DRB. I assume that means change of use, right? They would
Talking
need
about
to
any
come.
additional expansion?
It says, yeah, expansion of use on the property shall require additional review.
It's a non-conforming lot, so
Any change
our
in
regulations would require any expansion or change in the use to come before us.
Yeah.
How about, why don't we say
Even
that,
without
actually,
that.
any expansion
Any
or
further.
change, any
Any
further.
additional, any further, sure.
Any further
Right.
expansion or, any further expansion or change,
Or change of use?
In the
Of
use.
All right, great.
change
But that
of
just
use.
restates the law, but there's no harm in doing that.
All right.
Yeah, and I know that's just something that's been in a lot of different decisions where it kind of states it.
Hones it in, okay. And so now being detailed is that order number 2 and 3, I think, Mitch, did you add a paragraph late in the game?
Yeah, I think the 6 and 7 don't work.
Yeah, it should be
3
7
does.
and 8,
Oh.
and then in number 3, fact number 3 should be changed to number 4.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Oh, good, okay, that works now.
There we go. That's my points for today.
Yep.
That's an invested alternate.
Yes, I'll say. There you go, John.
It wears off over the years.
Take it for now, right?
No, no,
Great.
good comments, thank you.
Yeah.
Face the tree. Okay, good. No permanent way to provide wastewater.
Move to approve as amended.
Any seconds?
Oh, Dick, you haven't had time to read it, though. You
No.
done?
I'm done.
Mr. Engineer?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll second, I guess.
Go for it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I abstain.
Interesting meeting tonight.
Yeah.
No comment.
Yeah.
I was thinking more of the first application, actually.
It's gonna be a high priority.
Change.
So I guess since I'm left, I would motion to adjourn the meeting. And well, we don't motion to adjourn. We're just meetings. How do you say it? You just say the meeting's done?
Yep.
So we're supposed to be
Second.
doing laptops or tablets next time, in addition,
Postpone.
according to Alex?
Well, according to Alex.
Any
although-
idea how long that might take? An hour, maybe?
Well, I'll talk to Alex
Because
as far as.
I'm a hard study on that kind of stuff.
They were all hacked.
So I'll try your patience.
No, Max,
We're probably
I
gonna
don't-
leave you here by yourself.
I don't think the intent
You
necessarily.
have one of those
Are these
things, so
mine?
you're really,
Yeah,
I'm
Greg?
dumb. I'm dumb.
You're gonna love it, though.
So I already have one.
I'm not sure.
Just
Okay,
after
I'll
9.
keep it
I
on.
thought it was after 10.
So maybe I decide up for a private
Yeah,
tutorial
they're
and get
not-
out.
they're not giving me one either, 'cause I
I'll go over to
just-
Wednesday.
You don't use a computer at work at all?
12-inch one.
What's that?
You don't use a computer at work?
What the heck?
I use a computer, not a tablet.
I need an excuse for my impairment.
But you can touch the screen.
So what software are
I'm
you
not
putting
a
on these
touchy-feely
that,
guy.
Do you have an
that
iPhone?
lets you annotate
I do have an iPhone
PDFs
in
and
the last
whatever,
2
and
years.
whatever?
Actually,
You're gonna be ahead of
oh,
me.
you know, I forgot one
I don't have
announcement.
It's just like a big iPhone.
Doesn't
I
really
don't
have to be in the
Apple
minutes,
products, it's my
but,
big thing.
one thing, if you haven't heard,
All right.
We're out, sorry.
It'll be easier than I'd probably give
they've
myself
actually,
credit for.
they've actually, the
I've been
town has
resistant to
hired
this stuff.
a new zoning administrator.